More than 100 years after his death, Tchaikovsky remains a giant among classical composers. But behind the music was a man with a secret inner life.
Ask yourself, how long will we be tolerated?
I will not change a single note. I am perched on the edge of disgrace.
Before his untimely death at the age of 53, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky had become one of the most popular composers the world had ever known. His works, from Swan Lake to Sleeping Beauty, Eugen Onegin to the Pathetique Symphony, were the expression of 19th century Russian Romanticism. His music was loved across the globe. But over the years, Tchaikovsky has suffered the cruel irony of becoming far too popular to be taken seriously. Too often, he's dismissed as a cheap sentimentalist. Well, I think he deserves better than that. It's time to set the record straight. I've come to Russia to discover the real Tchaikovsky through his work, his writings, and the places he knew best. I've been fascinated by Tchaikovsky for years, and now, based on the latest research, these films will paint a portrait of the real man behind the music. Tchaikovsky has long been caricatured as emotional and undisciplined, but I think it's a picture that obscures his great vision, his radical ambition, and its achievement in music. This is Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, the Pathetique. For me, his crowning achievement, his masterpiece. Into this symphony, he poured the essence and experience of a lifetime's work. It was his last piece, and it would become his requiem.
I shall not be surprised if this symphony is torn to pieces.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I'm in love with it. Can't we find a cab to your apartment? And tell me, if the music is so marvelous, why did everybody hate it in rehearsal? They were indifferent, completely indifferent. How can I like it if they didn't?
The audience was transfixed, Uncle Petya.
I couldn't wait for it to be over. My stomach will be the end of me.
You've twisted yourself with this symphony.
Do you have any mineral water here? Fetch me some mineral water, please. And no, Modeste, it is not the music. Just the same old trouble.
My dear brother, with every piece you twist yourself like this.
No, stop it, Modeste. You are not an expert. And you are not my keeper. I know myself better than you. Please bring that water.
Let me call Dr. Burtonson. I cannot see you suffer like this.
No, I don't need a doctor.
Tchaikovsky could not know it, but within 9 days, he would be dead. This is Tchaikovsky's home at Klin, a small town deep in the Russian countryside. The house is now a museum preserved just as the composer left it, before conducting the premiere of the Pathetique Symphony in St. Petersburg. This house was the only true haven of peace in a life that had been a battle to carve out both the kind of man and the kind of composer Tchaikovsky wanted to be. Coming to this place is for me a unique moment. It's filled with objects intimately connected with Tchaikovsky, and the atmosphere is deeply affecting. Tchaikovsky recorded every detail of his life in more than 5,000 letters and several volumes of diaries archived here at Klin. But after his death, much of the truth about him was deliberately suppressed. This house is the key to understanding the man, his obsessions and neuroses, his passionate love affairs and bitter disappointments. Everything is here. Tchaikovsky began writing songs, often dedicated to his mother, at the age of just 4. As a child, music poured out of him, so much so that he suffered terrible headaches trying to write it all down quickly enough. A sensitive boy, he was plagued by a delicate stomach and was fearful of change. The prospect of being sent away to boarding school filled him with terror, and his nanny later said he was so fragile, it was as if he were made of glass.
It's a good school, Petya. Is it your stomach?
Mama! All the things in my head.
Oh. You mustn't brood so, Petya. And when you need to sleep tonight, imagine that you're in a room full of filing cabinets, like in Papa's office. And into each put one of your worries, and into the other, your music. And I will do the same with my thoughts for you. I know they will be safe. And when you have put away your thoughts for the day, then quietly close the door, and then you'll sleep.
Mama!
Master Tchaikovsky, be calm now. You'll see Mama soon enough. Come now to the school. Put on your splendid uniform, just right for a brave little man. Can you be a brave man?
Incarcerated at a school for future civil servants, Tchaikovsky spent the rest of his childhood preparing for a career he knew he would loathe. Tragically, when he was just 14, his mother died from cholera. The suddenness of her death and the dreadful sense of loss haunted Tchaikovsky into his adult life.
I've lost everybody. Why have the fates punished me so?
After the loneliness and isolation of boarding school, Tchaikovsky spent a miserable few months in the civil service before leaving it for music. Unfortunately for the ambitious young man, Russia's new music academies provided both training and a career. By the age of 29, Tchaikovsky's prodigious talents had been recognised, and he'd been appointed a professor of music at the Moscow Conservatoire.
Друг, помолись за меня. Я за тебя уж молюсь.
It was while teaching that Tchaikovsky had his first great romance. He met and fell in love with a teenage student called Edward Zach. Their mutual infatuation was poured into Tchaikovsky's work, and into one piece in particular. This is Romeo and Juliet, Tchaikovsky's first masterpiece. Outwardly, it's a brilliant musical evocation of Shakespeare's great tragedy, the passions of its star-crossed lovers, and the feuding Montagues and Capulets. But however brilliantly he captures the fury of battle and the plight of the young lovers, Tchaikovsky's letters reveal that the true inspiration behind Romeo and Juliet lay much closer to home. The piece is in fact a love letter to Edward Zach. And the great love theme, which so excited and shocked the public when Romeo and Juliet was premiered, shows that Tchaikovsky was able to forge from his personal experience a new musical style. Nothing as erotically charged, as sexually suggestive as this had ever been heard before in a concert hall. But just as in Shakespeare's tale, this story has a tragic end. Zach committed suicide at the height of the relationship, in circumstances that remain a mystery. What is known, though, is how profoundly Tchaikovsky loved Zach, and how deeply affected he was by his death.
You know, Modya, when I lost him, he was only 19. 19.
Here in St. Petersburg, I'm working with the Mariinsky Young Philharmonic, the cream of Russia's young orchestral players. They're all in their 20s, the same age as Tchaikovsky when he wrote his first great pieces. I'm eager to know how they view this great Russian icon. As you've grown up as a musician with Tchaikovsky's music, what kind of man do you think he was? What sort of character was he?
Very strong.
Very strong.
Strong character.
Strong.
Do you think he was strong?
Strong,
in his personal life?
Yes. I
So-
think strong and romantic. Он реагировал на критику.
Нет, ну,
Конечно, он в душе переживал. А держался, я думаю, что...
everything was inside him, but maybe Ali is talking about that. He never show that he's upset. Maybe about.
Он показывал это в музыке, скорее всего.
Less talking, more writing. Music.
Who did you think he was?
When I started Tchaikovsky, I was just playing music. I didn't thought about his personal, and I thought it was a nice composer, nice Russian composer, who discovered Russian country, Russian folk music, and for me, Tchaikovsky melancholic, of course.
So you're saying Tchaikovsky was melancholic? Yes, I think you must be right. But in a way, that's a national characteristic.
I think yes.
To my mind, we're not talking about the one man. He's melancholic.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking about the person, we must think about not only the person, but all the history, and that,
of course,
absolutely at that moment, about his father, mother, what he was growing up, what he was thinking about when he was a boy, a young man.
Talking to these young musicians, it's striking that their grasp of Tchaikovsky's complex personality is as vivid as their performance of his music. For them, Tchaikovsky the man is very much a living force.
Please, Petya, stop this torture. Let me call Dr. Burtons. your fevers? Were you thinking of Mama?
Her death will not leave me. When she was gone, I was lost.
But you found yourself, Petya.
No, Modjes. I found music.
Having made his name with Romeo and Juliet, Tchaikovsky was determined to forge ahead with a career as a composer. But it was not to be easy. He had already developed a reputation as a radical modernizer, and to break into the highest echelons of Russian cultural life, it was critical that he gain approval from the musical establishment. The fact that the Moscow Conservatoire is now known as the Tchaikovsky Conservatoire is clear proof, I think, that to Russians, he's nothing short of an icon. Tchaikovsky is so much a part of the musical fabric of Russia that it's easy to forget how hard he struggled to make his mark, or how vulnerable he was to criticism. While professor of composition at the Conservatoire, Tchaikovsky produced an enormously ambitious range of work. 2 symphonies, 2 operas, vocal music and chamber pieces. As his confidence grew, so too did his vivid musical imagination. His first piano concerto was an explosive new work, radically different from Romeo and Juliet. Confident, virtuosic, challenging on every level. It was written for Nikolai Rubinstein, leading pianist, founder of the Conservatoire, and one of the most powerful musical figures in Russia.
Good morning. Hubert?
I'm ready.
This was radical, raw and shocking stuff. After its explosive opening with those sledgehammer chords, Tchaikovsky launches us on an exhilarating journey. This is a piece driven by confidence and new ideas. The orchestra is subservient, the piano leads from the front. Percussive, thunderous and fiendishly difficult to play, this was Western music with a uniquely Russian voice. What makes this music so Russian?
Because it's grand and noble and nostalgic and ironically victorious. And I use the word ironic with a strong underline because there are no such things as happy moments in Russian music, ever. You know, all the melodies, of course, just the melodies are so Russian. It's like they're taken from Russian folk songs, but they're not. Being a Russian person is just in my psyche and my genetic pool. Melodies like this are imprinted. was just such a thoughtful, sincere, really honest man who had an honest thing to say about music, and people still don't understand it. And it's because you can't think of it in a complicated way. It's complicated because it's not. It's simple and noble and beautiful and tragic.
Well? Well, did you like it?
Piotr, what are you trying to say? Are you actually trying to say anything? Have you lost your mind? Where's Tchaikovsky? I don't hear him in this music.
How true.
Oh, it's simply impossible. Where did you find such ideas?
They are my own.
Oh, please, don't burden me. I'm not deaf. I've had at least some of these ideas before. You must surely know where you found them. Of course I can forgive you the odd homage. I'm sure Messrs. Schumann, Glinka, and Saint-Saëns will be delighted by the compliment. I cannot forgive you such hackneyed and clumsy work. I have not finished. Look at me. We adore your passion, Piotr. But I never thought you vulgar.
I am not being vulgar.
Perhaps our 2 or 3 pages we can salvage. I will work with you. At the moment you're in chaos. Let me rework it. And perhaps then I will honor you with a performance, but it needs so much work.
I will not change a single note. It will be published exactly as it is now.
Seems rather childish, doesn't he? Ah.
True to his word, Tchaikovsky didn't change a single note. And ironically, Rubinstein, in a huge volte-face, was later to become one of the greatest champions of the concerto. When the piano concerto was premiered in Boston and then performed here in St. Petersburg, it was a huge success, launching Tchaikovsky onto the world stage. No longer would he bow to his critics. He had found his voice and was determined to follow his instincts. St. Petersburg, the centre of Russia's intellectual life, played host to a vibrant underground gay culture. Officially, the punishment for homosexuality was exile to Siberia, but Tchaikovsky was irresistibly drawn to the city and into a life of outrageous parties, heavy drinking, and promiscuous sex. His circle included the notorious Prince Meshchersky, the great novelist Tolstoy, and the poet Alexei Apuktin. Apuktin had been one of Tchaikovsky's best friends at boarding school and his sometime lover. In St. Petersburg, Alexei was Tchaikovsky's closest confidant.
I have a weakness, Alexei. And because I have that, we have that weakness, we must enjoy life as best we can. Ask yourself, how long will we be tolerated?
Oh, how ridiculous you sound. Forget all this. You cannot change your nature, nor can I. Embrace it and move on with life.
Are you not sorry that Modja is the same kind of person as me? As us? He imitates me in everything. He's my brother. I must set him an example.
So what are you saying, then? That otherwise we should all end up in the gutter?
No. In the end, I shall lose the strength to deal with the difficult side of life, and then I shall smash myself to pieces. But until then, I shall live life and enjoy it as best I can. From now on, I shall sacrifice everything to enjoyment.
To your music.
And to your poetry.
My. I do believe we've been here several times before. We cannot do it here. But you're tired of me anyway. I did promise you a Cossack, didn't I? You be my Cossack.
However much he played, Tchaikovsky worked twice as hard. In a city as flamboyant and theatrical as St. Petersburg, the art form that epitomized its spirit was ballet. A lavish court entertainment full of spectacle and show, but musically empty. Tchaikovsky, though, saw its potential. It's interesting to think that ballet schools like this, and those across the world, would probably not exist if Tchaikovsky had not decided to try his hand at what had previously been the preserve of second-rate composers. What Tchaikovsky did with ballet was nothing short of a revolution, and the piece that started it was Swan Lake.
Обязательно должен просматриваться вот диагональ, чуть-чуть должно быть левое плечо ниже, еще ниже, еще ниже, а голова должна наклоняться к...
Uliana Lopatkina has danced every Tchaikovsky ballet and is Russia's leading ballerina.
Немного грустные, да, чтобы они чуть-чуть завершали позу.
How do you imagine the world of ballet would be if there had been no Tchaikovsky?
What do you think if ballet world would not have Swan Lake? It's an answer to you. Without Swan Lake, how we can imagine classical ballet? I think it's the first one of the first famous and genius ballets in the classical style. In the ballet, the problem is we have not enough serious music and serious composers. Opera in some countries is so successful because they have a lot of genius music, genius composers, but in the ballet it's not the same situation. So for me, Tchaikovsky is very important because he is the first in the ballet.
Плие. Посмотрели на принца, потянулись вперед девоньки, вздох, и уже вниз, мальчики, быстро обводим. И плие грустная головушка.
What Tchaikovsky uniquely brought to ballet was not only great music, but also a strong and powerful narrative. Beneath the glitter, Swan Lake is a tale of magic, doomed love, and mistaken identity. It sees Tchaikovsky revisit the fertile territory of a love affair, but yet again, this is not a romance with a happy ending. The music is filled with an unresolved longing. The inner truth of this piece is the same as Romeo and Juliet. Idealized love always has a tragic ending.
We all adore this city. The ballet, the opera, la 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 la. But you, poor divine innocent, you still have the whole world to explore. And I know how lusty you can be. Go to the villages, my dear. Half the Tsar's people do. The villages are so full of the most glorious creatures.
Please, for heaven's sake, people will hear you. It's true. Prince Meshchersky's right. Just a few rubles, Pyotr, and you can have whoever you want.
They call it a shameful vice. I can tell you, my lad stood proud as a god.
I can imagine.
God, I smelt of his sweat for days.
You're Mr. Tchaikovsky, aren't you?
No,
Yes, yes you are.
You and your friends are paedophile buggers.
Are you mad? Do you know who I am?
Oh, yes. You are the Prince of Sodom and citizen of Gomorrah. Why aren't you locked up? You should be shot. You're vile, filthy. I'm not a paedophile. He's a pig for saying that.
No, of course you're not. Your music sculpts the air with romantic love. We adore you for it.
How can he call me that?
Because he has no mind. Shame on him. Not us.
The fate-laden atmosphere and raw emotion of Swan Lake were a mirror to Tchaikovsky's own interior landscape. Despite his success, Tchaikovsky feared that public knowledge of his homosexuality would destroy the career he'd worked so hard to create.
and constantly distressed. I know how that feels. How can you know how that feels? Oh, look. Please, Modja, I'm sorry. When I'm angry with you, I'm actually angry at myself. For you're ever playing the role of a mirror in which I see the reflection of all my weaknesses.
I can only be who I am, Petya.
There is an unbridgeable abyss between us and most people. Can you not disregard what other people might say about your inclinations? Our inclinations, Modja, our inclinations.
Tchaikovsky's emotional life was in crisis, but he was still determined to keep working. The idea of adapting Pushkin's fateful novel Eugene Onegin into an opera had become his main preoccupation. I've come to the Mariinsky, the theatre in which Tchaikovsky saw many of his major ballets and operas performed. It's fantastic to sense the long tradition of Tchaikovsky performance that this place exudes. Eugene Onegin is one of the most frequently performed operas here. The opera's heroine is Tatiana, and the heart of the opera, Tchaikovsky's masterstroke, is the scene when the young girl pours out her love in a letter to Onegin, the man she's just met. This scene paints one of the most extraordinary psychological portraits in music, and I'm working on it with the soprano Irina Matayeva, who's one of the Mariinsky's brightest young stars.
Но так и быть, судьбу мою отныне я тебе вручаю. Перед тобою слезою твоей защиты умоляю, умоляю. Вообрази, я здесь одна.
More jet propelled now.
Никто
With Eugene Onegin, Tchaikovsky redefined what romantic lyric drama could be. More intimate than epic, more psychological than mythological. This was the very antithesis of grand opera. Its poetry focuses on a kind of anatomical exploration of love. So here was opera, which dramatized the emotional core of the everyday, expressing through music what it was to be a young girl in love and the cruelty of rejection. Altogether, an astonishing example of Tchaikovsky's ability to empathize, to create characters that truly live and breathe.
What draws you to the music?
Широтой, красотой, ну, как бы, вот, так сказать, как у нас говорят, душа может открыться и закрыться. И когда пою, ну, уже много раз, в принципе, я очень часто себя ловлю на мысли, что я, как бы, вот какие-то места, я как будто я первый раз слышу. Вот, это, как бы, причем это меня постоянно преследует, особенно на спектакле. То есть я вот пишу, и вдруг какой-то инструмент заиграл, а я раньше как-то его я этого не слышала. И вот все время что-то новое. И как бы каждый раз как первый раз получается так.
Но так и быть, судьбу мою отныне я тебе вручаю. Перед тобою слезы лью, твоей защиты умоляю.
Out of her emotional turmoil, Tatiana has made her decision. She will send the love letter. And Tchaikovsky had made an equally fateful choice.
Alexei, I've told Modeste. This is a most critical period of my life, and I have decided to get married. It is unavoidable.
Married?
It is unavoidable. I must do it. Not just for me, but for Modeste as well.
You don't have any reason to?
I am making serious preparations for entering into a lawful marriage alliance.
An alliance?
I intend to make a new man of myself. Have you not realized that our dispositions are the greatest and most insuperable obstacle to our happiness? We must fight our inclinations to the best of our ability.
My battle was lost long ago. In fact, Petya, I don't remember fighting one at all.
I will do my utmost to get married this year. And if I lack the courage, I will, at any rate, abandon my habits forever and try to stop people regarding me as one of the old dears. My music demands it. My career demands it.
Poor Petya. The price of a little fame. Do you really think anyone we know even cares that much? You are sometimes quite ridiculous, Mr. Tchaikovsky.
Not share your idea of marriage. I am perched on the edge of disgrace.
I want no part of this stupidity.
I know who I am. I leave you to decide who you want to be.
Tchaikovsky could not have known how soon Eugene Onegin, with its story of secret love and personal humiliation, would mirror his own life. The man who'd struggled so hard to keep his public and private lives separate was about to see these two worlds collide with disastrous consequences.
Well, now look at him. What a treasure he must be.
You will get yourself arrested.
Knowing your reputation, they shall throw away the key.
Oh, Lord, they play it again. I shall never escape it.
He was handsome. Are you always going to say no to everyone?
Not to him.
Well, who can introduce you?
I don't need an introduction. I've prayed for him in the chapel. Do you know how many years I have loved him? I shall write him a letter. I shall tell him exactly how I feel. And then he will love me just as I have always loved him.
Tchaikovsky's life, as in his opera Eugene Onegin, everything turned on a letter. When Antonina Miliakova wrote to him proclaiming her love, it seemed to Tchaikovsky that fate had taken a hand and blessed his decision to get married. Little could he know how disastrous this would prove to be.